Beer of the day, Yingling Lager. I was watching TV last night and I was going through YouTube. I don't know if you guys ever watch TV through YouTube, other than, you know, vloggers like me. But there's movies, free movies on there. There's all kinds of stuff on there. So I just happened to think of a show I hadn't seen in many years. The Gong Show with Chuck Barris.
You're going to love this lady. She can sing so nicely. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Deborah Williams. Unknown comic!
I don't know if you guys remember that or not. I'm sure you do. I watched, I don't know, probably half a dozen of those. And they were fun. And then it just dawned on me about the Dean Martin roast. Remember those? It was like once a month.
You know, Sammy Davis is always singing. Tell you what kind of fool Sammy is. He asked me to invite Don Rickles here tonight.
It's a wonderful trait to be able to, this wonderful black man. Sam, I kid you, we know each other a lot of years, really. And I love the black people. We need you people, I swear, because no Jew's going to make up a train.
Those were the best. I watched like 3 or 4 of those. Those were the best. And then underneath the videos I watch on TV, so underneath the videos, there's always these recommended, if you're, whatever you're watching, somehow they tag in other things that's kind of related to that. So there's these recommended ones underneath of it. And it was this Carol Burnett hour. Ed Sullivan show was on there. I did watch one of the Ed Sullivan shows. And I was just sitting there thinking, you know, I miss those shows. I know they maybe today's way of doing things is kind of corny, but I kind of miss those old variety shows, and especially when Tim Conway and Harvey Korman, and they would have this thing between them, and Harvey, it was like a contest to see which one was going to crack the other one up first, and I believe 9 out of 10 times Conway won. I mean, if you guys saw them, Conway was just he was just unmerciful toward Harvey Korman. And when Harvey got going, so did Tim. He just made it worse. So, and one of the favorites is when Tim Conway was a dentist.
I'll be right with you.
You guys know what I'm talking about. That's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, you gotta go see it. It's just hilarious. So I kind of miss some of them. In the Ed Sullivan show on Sunday, I think it was, I can remember when Elvis Presley was introduced for the first time to television. I can remember the Beatles that came over from England over to the United States and was on the Ed Sullivan show, and that's how they were introduced to the United States. And I can remember watching it on our old black and white TV. Our old TV had, I don't know how big it was, because I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something. But it was blonde. The wood was blonde. Now it's all collectible stuff, blonde furniture, right? And it had these 2 doors on the front that you opened up like that, and then the black and white TV was inside. And if I remember right, it was kind of a round tube. And you turn it on over here. You had to let it warm up, and as it warmed up, then the picture started showing up, and then you had to turn the thing over here. Those you kids today, we didn't do this. We did click, 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 click this, and you went to the channel. There was only like 3, 4 in Indiana, 6, 8, 13, and I think Channel 4. Channel 4 was WTTV back then, out of Indianapolis, actually Bloomington, Indiana. Everything was within a TV antenna or rabbit ears. There was no cable or none of that stuff. So once we went to the channel where Ed Sullivan was at, which I don't remember the channel, it had to be like 6, 8, or 13. Let's say it's Channel 8. Now we get to Channel 8. Now we all done this like 5 or 10 minutes before Ed Sullivan came on. So we had to make sure the TV was warmed up really good, because the hotter the tubes got in the TV, the better the reception and the picture was. We'd move the rabbit ears, or we'd go outside and I'd turn the antenna, and Dad would yell out, leave it there, and we'd go inside and Mom would make the popcorn. No, we didn't have microwave. There was no microwave popcorn. She had like the pressure cooker pan, and she would put Crisco, lard, in the bottom of the pan, melt it down, dump in a handful of popcorn, whatever kind it was, and she put the lid on there, and she sat there on the top of the stove and just kept shaking it, and then it'd start popping, and she'd shake it and shake it and shake it until the popping quit, and then she'd take the lid off and dump it in the bowl, and then I remember her hollering back, "You want butter on this?" And yeah. So then she had like this big square bar of butter. It was like that big a square on the ends, and then it was like this long. And she would take a big spoon and she'd scoop off a hunk of that butter and throw it in that pan and melt it down. And then she would pour it all over the popcorn, and then she would mix it up. I miss that stuff. And it seemed like everything tasted better and everything was better. Even though it was simpler, it was better from what I can remember. So now the Ed Sullivan Show would come on. And now, you know how Ed was. He had like no neck. And then he would introduce the Beatles. And the Beatles would come out, and it was so much screaming from the girls and so much noise that even on TV, the sound quality back then is nothing like it is today. No wireless mics. They didn't have wireless mics or any of that stuff. That they were singing and they were playing, and you could kind of hear a little bit of this or of that, but you really couldn't make out what they were singing because of the girls saying, screaming and carrying on. It was great. As a kid, I can remember it was great. And then some of the people that they had back then and the actors, the Dean Martins, the Jerry Lewis, the Frank Sinatras, those are the big three, right? They had their shows. The Frank Sinatra show, the Dean Martin Hour, Supercells. Remember Supercells? I remember Supercells had White Fang, and I want to say Black Tooth, whatever. Somebody will know. You never saw these people. It was just a big furry hand. He'd open the back door and his hand would stick out, and then he would say something, and then White Fang would mumble something that nobody could understand, and then he would talk to him like he understood him, but we didn't know what he was saying.
He said 3 o'clock. You did?
I remember on TV once, it was on the news if I remember right, Supercells got in trouble. And what happened was, because it was basically a children's show, and I watched it all the time, black and white, mind you. I watched it all the time. I think it was on Saturdays. So he told the kids, he'd say, now, when your mom and dad goes to bed tonight and they go to sleep, get out of bed. I want you to sneak over to their room and open up their billfold, your daddy's billfold, and pull out $1. Put it in an envelope and mail it to me. And I forget what the whole idea of that was, but it was a joke, right? But the kids did it.
In 1965, I did what is considered the greatest minute ad lib in the history of television, because not only did it prove how powerful the medium was, but it got me thrown off the air. Now I was always accused of saying a lot of other things which I didn't, But this I did, because I thought it was 5 minutes before 7, and we were doing the show in the evening. It was New Year's Day night, and we were in a commercial, and the director comes over there in the car and says, when we come out, you're going to have a minute. What do you want to do? Well, I was writing all the shows. If I could save a bit for the next day, I would do it. So I said, I'll ad-lib some. So he knows I always work so close to the camera, closer than anybody else. So when it came out, I walked up to the camera and went, hey kids, I said, last night was New Year's Eve and your mom and dad were out having a good time. And it's only right because they work hard all year long. They're probably still in the bedroom sleeping. I said, what I want you to do is tiptoe in the bedroom, but don't wake them up. And you'll probably see your mom's pocketbook on the floor and your dad's pants, but don't wake them up. I said, I want you to go in your mom's pocketbook and your dad's pants, and you'll see a lot of green pieces of paper with pictures of guys with beards. I said, why don't you what I want you to do is take those green pieces of paper and you put them in an envelope, and on the envelope you write Supercells, Channel 5. Do that. New York, New York, and you know what I'm going to send you? A postcard from Puerto Rico. And we all laughed and went on, and we came in. That's my ride home. So I come in the next week, we had $80,000. So I said, well, hell, that's better than working. You just buy a minute on TV and people send you money. Now, some woman from New Jersey wrote a letter to the FCC and sent a copy to Metro Media and said, I was encouraging the kids to steal. Oh, really? So now, you know, if you get 2 or 3 letters or 2 or 3 calls, you don't pay any attention to it because people will watch and listen to you. They hate you. If you get 40 or 50, there's something else. Shh. So anyway, so now I come in one day and they said, the executives would like to see you upstairs in the conference room after the show. And I said, they're probably going to give me a raise. So I walked up there, and I do not lie. I walked in, there are 11 attorneys, 10 guys, a woman, Muriel Reese. She's still there today. The vice president, general manager, and the vice president jumps in. Listen, that's how he talks. Did you go on TV New Year's Day night and tell the kids to go in their mother's pocketbook and their father's pants and send you a green piece of paper with pictures of guys on it with beards? I said, that's right. He said, how much did you get? I said, $80,000. And the man goes into catatonic shock. They threw me off there right then and there. And thank God some people came around and threw eggs and paint at the station, and that was just my family. You know, but I tell you, kids are very smart. They did send in green pieces of paper, Monopoly money, although I did get $1 from some 28-year-old girl and said, I've seen your show and you should go to Puerto Rico. Thank you. Good night and God bless you, folks.
We are such a crazy country, and I blame the lawyers and I blame the judges for allowing all this silly crap happening. It just boggles my mind that now we have to put letters and notes and warnings and all this stuff on everything that to me is commonsensical. If you're dumb enough to start a lawnmower and stick your foot underneath of it and get it cut off, just because somebody didn't put a warning label down there saying keep your feet out from underneath of it, you can sue them? To me, they wouldn't want me to be a judge. I would not only throw that case out of court, I would reprimand the attorney for bringing it to me. He'd be getting a fine because that is dumb. It's asinine. I don't understand it. That didn't happen back in my younger days. I mean, if you fell down and hurt yourself or done something dumb, the theory was back then was, well, you won't do that again. You hope you learned your lesson, you know? Well, I think I've rattled on enough about some of the old shows and stuff like that, so I'm going to get out of here, and let me just say,
good night to all of you, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
See you guys on the other side.